Hey, it's Dr. Schmidt. I want to talk about Meatless Mondays. So, this is a new policy by New York City schools, and it's an absolute horrible decision. And I want to share with you a story from 1999. I just graduated from chiropractic school in 97. I did straight chiropractic for a year. 1998 is when I started focusing on nutrition. And in 1999, I was invited to a tour. It was a special school in Toledo, Ohio, where I was practicing. And the principal was walking me up and down the hallways. And this is the school where the kids went when they were troublemakers. And there were two police officers on staff not 24 hours, all the time, full time, during school hours. So it's in the morning, and the principal and I are walking through the hallways, and he says, it seems pretty quiet today. And I asked him why. And later he had said to me, well, that was a really good question, but he didn't know why. And I was thinking, well, there's got to be a reason why compared to other days. So then they served lunch. Now, lunch was brought in from another part of town. It was shipped in by a truck. It was in these styrofoam containers. And you open up the containers, and inside was a corn dog and then iceberg lettuce with a salad dressing. And there was the white milk, and there was something else, I can't remember, whatever it was. And I looked at this lunch, and I told the principal, I said, I wouldn't eat it. And I'm not a food snob at all, but it just was beyond disgusting. And during lunch, that's when the fights broke out. That's when the crying started. That's when the kids were super disruptive in the classrooms, and it was spilling out into the hallways. That's when the police, who were sitting on the first floor with their legs up on the desk in the morning, that's when the police became active, and they had to break up the fights, and they had to put kids in the corner for timeout or whatever they were doing. Two cops are running around this school trying to maintain order. So without a doubt, that food was absolutely disgusting. And probably the best thing of the food was probably the hot dog that was in the middle of the corn dog. So if all the kids just had like 4 hot dogs, none of those fights would have happened, and the crying and the anger and all that stuff, it would have been very much minimalized. So the problem was like the breading and the bad fats and the salad dressing and the milk, of course, with the sugar and the whatever allergic reactions that the kids had from that food. And plus it was high carbs, so it was a poor quality and too high in carbs, so quantities were bad too. So then later, after lunch, I was in the principal's office on the first floor, and these 2 kids came down, and they said that their stomachs hurt. They couldn't eat the food. And so this is what the principal did. He pushed himself away from the desk, and he reached down, and he pulled out, I don't have any, 2 candy bars from this huge box that was underneath his desk. There was 2 boxes. He pulled out these 2 candy bars, and he handed them to the kids, and he says, here, eat these. We'll go get some Wendy's for you. And I just thought, oh my God, what a disaster this is. And there were pop machines, and I told the principal, like, you got to get those out. He goes, yeah, but the school makes money from the pop machines. I was like, well, are you going to be around maybe next season, next school year, you can get rid of these? He goes, I might not. He goes, I might not be here next season. So the place was settled and calm in the morning, probably because the kids were fasting, or they had a decent meal before they came into school. Then they had these horrible foods, and it was just a complete disaster. So now the Meatless Mondays movement is actually a group. It's an activist group, and they have a website, and it's like meatlessmondays.com, and you can see all their funding. They are funded by 46 different corporations, food corporations, and I wrote down some of them. I'm going to list them off because you may have heard of these corporations. Bush's Beans, Bird's Eye, Dole with the fruit, canned pineapple and stuff, Tofurkey, that's actually a company, the Peanut Institute, which is an association of peanut growers, I guess, Jarlsberg Cheese, Easy Vegan, these are names of companies, and of course our newly formed Beyond Meat with their Impossible Burger, partly owned by a Saudi Arabian prince who also partly owns Twitter and is using social media to make you stop eating meat because meat kills, etc., etc. All right, but you know, nobody's ever died from eating meat. Never in the history of humanity, from the dawn of time, from the moment there were bipedal mammals, nobody's ever died from eating meat. And it's just, it always comes back to the sugar and the junk food. When people come to me and see me in my office and they're sick and they have like, their body's completely degenerated and they have fatigue and they're sore all the time and it's because of their diet, and their diet is grain-based and sugar-based. And if people go vegan and they see me, they're not nearly as bad. And then of course, when people are eating meat and plus quality vegetables, they're in really good shape and they're avoiding the grains, they're avoiding the sugars. And then the whole carnivore movement, that's such a new thing. It's only been the last couple of years. So I don't have too much experience with that, but there's plenty of people on social media with great results with that. So and then I'll ask patients like, okay, so was there a time in your life when you ate a lot of sugar or junk food? And they say yes. And they say, well, how long did that time of your life last? And they would say 20 years or all my life. And they just found me on YouTube and they just changed their diet last week. And they're feeling better already just because they cut out the sugar and they're eating more meat. In 1 week, they're starting to feel better. So there's my attack on the whole Meatless Mondays activist group. I'm very wary about any kind of food activist group unless it's just going back to the way it used to be. So there's my story. Thanks for listening. I wanted to share that with you. And I'll see you at the next video.